Everyone calls Geralt of Rivia a hero, but his own code, the so-called Witcher's Code, proves otherwise. A rule built on neutrality, designed to keep him out of politics, out of love, and out of moral judgment. But neutrality in a world like The Witcher doesn't make you good. It makes you dangerous. Because when you choose not to act, you're still choosing. And that's why Geralt of Rivia might not be the hero you think. The Witcher's Code isn't divine law. It's a survival mechanism. Centuries ago, Witchers were hunted, feared, and exploited. So they created a rule. Stay neutral, kill only for coin, and never get involved in human affairs. It sounded like wisdom, the ultimate way to avoid being seen as a threat. But for Geralt, neutrality became something else. It became an excuse. He hides behind it, claiming he doesn't pick sides. Yet every decision he makes is a side. When he kills Renfri in Blaviken, he tells himself it was inevitable. When he saves Ciri, he says it's destiny. When he spares monsters, he claims it's mercy. But these aren't neutral acts. They're emotional ones. And that's what makes Geralt dangerous. He pretends logic drives him when it's really guilt, compassion, and anger. Neutrality in Geralt's world is just another kind of mask, the same way Dexter hides behind Harry's code. Both men build moral rules to control chaos, but in the end, those rules control them. Geralt believes the code protects him, that if he follows it, he won't become what humans fear. But neutrality isn't strength. It's fear disguised as wisdom. It's the fear of responsibility. When he refuses to interfere in human wars, people still die, often innocent ones. When he tries to stay out of politics, kings and sorcerers use his silence as permission. And when he finally chooses to act, it's usually too late. Take the massacre at Sintra. Geralt's neutrality didn't save anyone. It only delayed his inevitable role in destiny, protecting Ciri, the very child he tried to avoid. By claiming neutrality, Geralt avoids accountability. But fate doesn't care about his code. Just like Dexter can't stop killing to feed his dark passenger, Geralt can't stop caring, no matter how much he pretends. And that contradiction is what makes him fascinating. He's the hero who knows he's lying to himself. For Geralt, the cost of following the code is isolation. He can't form true relationships without breaking it. He can't express emotion without compromising his identity as a Witcher. The world around him sees him as a freak, emotionless, cold, heartless. And the more he tries to live by the code, the more he becomes exactly what they think he is. Yet the cruelest irony? Every time Geralt breaks the code, the world punishes him. He kills Renfri to stop bloodshed, and earns the title Butcher of Blaviken. He saves Ciri, and becomes hunted by those who fear her power. He tries to do good, and good destroys him. Because the code isn't about right or wrong, it's about survival. And survival, in the Witcher's world, often looks like cowardice in disguise. Underneath his stoic calm, Geralt's neutrality is psychological armor. He tells himself emotions are weakness, but emotion is what drives him at every turn. He hides behind the code because it gives him permission not to feel. But just like Dexter's code fails to make him human, Geralt's code fails to make him safe. The very thing designed to protect him from judgment becomes the source of his guilt. He isn't a hero because he follows the code. He's a hero despite it. Because in the moments when he breaks his own rules, he becomes the most human version of himself. Geralt's code isn't about morality. It's about survival in a world that no longer values humanity. He clings to neutrality not because it's noble, but because it's easier than choosing sides in a world where every side is corrupt. But neutrality isn't peace, it's silence. And silence has a body count. Geralt's tragedy is that he wants to be good, but his world doesn't allow it. Every rule he follows isolates him. Every emotion he suppresses breaks through. And every choice he avoids becomes a consequence he can't escape. He isn't the noble savior fans want him to be. He's something far more real, a man trying to find purpose in a life built on denial. The Witcher's Code doesn't make Geralt a hero. It proves that even heroes need lies to survive. Both kill without remorse. Both follow strict codes, but only one is called a monster. Dexter Morgan hunts murderers to feed his dark passenger. Geralt of Rivia slays beasts for coin, bound by destiny and neutrality. One kills out of obsession, the other out of duty. So why do we call one a hero and the other a psychopath? Today, we're diving deep into the psychology of Dexter versus Geralt. Two men driven by rules, haunted by morality, and trapped between darkness and control. Dexter was raised with one rule: kill only those who deserve it. Harry's code became his moral armor, a way to direct his sociopathy towards something society could almost accept. But Dexter's code isn't about morality, it's about control. He kills because he has to. The code just makes it feel righteous. Geralt's law of surprise and Witcher neutrality serve the same purpose. He doesn't kill out of desire, but obligation. His contracts are rules meant to suppress his emotions, to keep his monstrous potential in check. Both men live by systems meant to hide their chaos behind discipline. But here's the difference. Dexter's code is artificial, built to mask what he is. Geralt's is cultural, built to protect the world from what he could become. Therefore, one code saves others, while the other saves himself. Dexter's kills are intimate, calculated, personal. He stalks predators, learns their crimes, and delivers his own justice. In his mind, he's cleaning the world. But in reality, Dexter doesn't kill for others. He kills to silence the voice inside, the compulsion that won't stop whispering. His justice is self-medication, not heroism. Geralt's killings are transactional. Monsters exist, people pay, he delivers peace. He doesn't pretend it's noble. In fact, he despises the idea of morality in a world ruled by chaos. Yet time and time again, Geralt makes choices that prove he isn't truly neutral. He saves children. He spares monsters. He questions who the real beasts are, the ones with fangs or the ones who wear crowns. Geralt kills to survive. Dexter kills to feel alive. Dexter's greatest lie is pretending he feels nothing. Over time, we see cracks, the way he loves Harrison, or the guilt that haunts him when innocent lives are lost. But these flashes of humanity confuse him more than they redeem him. His emotions are sparks in an empty void, flickers of what could have been if he wasn't wired for darkness. Geralt, on the other hand, wants to feel less. His Witcher mutations suppress emotion, but they don't erase empathy. When he cares, it costs him everything: Yennefer, Ciri, his peace. The tragedy of Geralt is that emotion is his weakness. The tragedy of Dexter is that emotion is his illusion. Dexter hides because society would never accept what he is. He's the monster who wears a mask, the smiling blood-spatter analyst who walks among the innocent. When he kills, it's in the shadows, because light would destroy him. Geralt, meanwhile, lives as an outcast in plain sight. People know what he is: mutant, killer, freak, and they despise him for it. Yet they still rely on him to keep the world safe. The irony? Geralt doesn't hide, but he's treated like a monster. Dexter hides, but he's treated like a man. Both are condemned, just in opposite ways. So, who's the real monster? Dexter and Geralt are mirror images, two men trying to contain what they were born to be. Dexter's control comes from fear. Geralt's control comes from acceptance. One fights his nature, the other harnesses it. If morality is defined by why we kill, then Geralt might be the hero. But if it's defined by what we hide, Dexter might be the truer human. Maybe monsters aren't made by what they do. Maybe they're made by what they feel. And in that sense, both Dexter and Geralt prove the same truth. Sometimes, the difference between man and monster is just who's telling the story.
You think you know Dexter Morgan from the TV show, but the Dexter in Jeff Lindsay's novels, he's far darker, colder, and less human than Showtime ever dared to show. And the differences are so extreme that once you see them, you'll realize the TV version almost feels like a completely different man. On television, Michael C. Hall brought Dexter to life with wit, sarcasm, and even flashes of humanity. He cracked dry jokes in voiceovers, wrestled with guilt, and slowly evolved into someone audiences could weirdly root for. But in the books, Dexter isn't someone you'd want to root for at all. He's not conflicted. He's not struggling with morality. He's a predator, a sociopath who describes murder in a detached, clinical way as if he's writing a manual. And that's the first big difference between book Dexter and TV Dexter. Book Dexter doesn't care about people. Not really. His inner voice isn't witty or self-deprecating. It's cold, emotionless, and even cruel. Where TV Dexter often tried to convince himself he was normal, book Dexter openly admits he's not. He doesn't even pretend. That layer of charm we saw on Showtime, that was a mask created for television audiences who needed a reason to follow him week after week. Without it, the real Dexter in Jeff Lindsay's novels is almost alien. Take his relationship with Deborah. On the show, Deb is his anchor, emotional, messy, loyal, and deeply connected to her brother. In fact, her love for Dexter becomes one of the most important arcs in the series. But in the books, their relationship is awkward and distant. He doesn't feel the same emotional bond. He helps her because it benefits his cover, not because he loves her. To him, Deb is just another human in his orbit, not the person he can't live without. For fans who only know the TV show, that's a shocking change. And then, there's Rita. In the early seasons of the show, Dexter starts out seeing Rita as cover, someone safe and damaged enough not to notice his own secrets. But as time goes on, TV Dexter begins to genuinely care for her. He connects with her kids. He even starts to think of himself as a father. Those moments humanize him. They make us feel like maybe, just maybe, there's something good inside him worth saving. But book Dexter never gets there. His relationship with Rita remains cold and utilitarian. He uses her as a disguise, a shield to make him look normal. But there's no real emotional growth. He doesn't care for her children in any meaningful way. In fact, he describes them almost like props. Where TV Dexter tried to convince audiences that he was more than a monster, book Dexter proves over and over again that he's exactly that. And then, there's the infamous Dark Passenger. On the show, the Dark Passenger is symbolic. It's the voice of his urges, his impulses, the thing Harry's code was designed to control. But in the books, the Dark Passenger is something else entirely. It's almost supernatural, described as a literal presence that guides him, speaks to him, and sometimes even controls him. Fans who only know the show would never expect that. Showtime kept Dexter grounded in psychology, but Jeff Lindsay made him feel almost possessed. That's how otherworldly his darkness really was in the novels. So why did Showtime change all of this? The answer is simple: relatability. Book Dexter was too cold, too inhuman, to keep mainstream audiences engaged for 8 seasons. Television needs someone you can laugh with, feel for, and ultimately root for, no matter how flawed. That's why we got Dexter the anti-hero instead of Dexter the pure predator. And it worked. People loved TV Dexter. They debated whether he could be redeemed, whether he was a hero or villain. But those same debates don't exist in the books. There, Dexter is never painted as redeemable. He's a killer first and always. And when you really think about it, that makes book Dexter terrifying in a way the show never could be. Because he isn't hiding behind guilt or love or family. He isn't broken. He isn't battling himself. He's simply doing what predators do, hunting. And the most chilling part? He doesn't see anything wrong with it. Take some of his descriptions of murder. In the novels, he talks about killing with a cold, methodical detail, like he's describing how to fix a car engine. There's no hesitation, no emotional fallout, no guilt, just clinical precision. Compare that to the show, where Dexter often spirals emotionally, panics when people get close to his secret, and wrestles with whether he can live a normal life. That conflict is what drove the TV series. But the novels strip that away and leave us with a predator who doesn't care. So which version is the real Dexter Morgan? That depends on what you think Jeff Lindsay intended. The novels give us the raw, unfiltered version, a killer who happens to look human but doesn't feel human. The TV show gave us an anti-hero, someone who could wrestle with morality, build relationships, and trick us into caring about him. Both are fascinating. Both work in their own way, but only one is truly terrifying. And that's the point. Showtime gave us a Dexter we could fall in love with. Jeff Lindsay gave us the monster hiding beneath that mask, the one who doesn't want your sympathy, your love, or your forgiveness. Just your silence while he sharpens his knife. So tell me, do you prefer the charming, conflicted Dexter from television or the ruthless alien version from the novels? Drop your answer in the comments, because I want to know which one you think is the real Dexter Morgan. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the Dexter universe. Because one thing's for sure, the Dexter you saw on TV wasn't the whole story.
You think you know Deborah Morgan from the TV show, but the Deborah in Jeff Lindsay's novels, she's almost unrecognizable. The differences between book Deb and TV Deb are so shocking that fans who only watched the series never saw the real Deborah Morgan hiding in plain sight. Because in the novels, Deborah is a completely different character. She swears like a sailor, she's impulsive, and her relationship with Dexter takes turns that the show never dared to touch. Her personality, her career, even her emotional role in the story all shifted when Showtime brought her to the screen. The result is that casual fans think they know her, but they don't. So let's pull back the curtain and look at the Deborah Morgan that the show never gave us. And by the end, you'll realize you've only ever seen half of who Deborah really was. In the show, Jennifer Carpenter brought Deborah to life with this mix of toughness and vulnerability. She's foul-mouthed, yes, but she's also endearing, wounded, insecure, but ultimately driven by a desperate need to prove herself. But in Jeff Lindsay's books, Deborah's personality goes to extremes. She's much harsher, less polished, and nowhere near as sympathetic. Book Deborah doesn't just curse, she unleashes a constant stream of rage-filled profanity. She's reckless, brash, and often a liability to herself and others. She's not the vulnerable little sister struggling for approval. She's a ticking time bomb, ready to explode at anyone who stands in her way. That change alone reshaped how audiences saw her. TV Deborah became a fan favorite because she had layers. Under the tough talk, she cared deeply about Dexter, about her career, about being respected in a male-dominated department. Book Deborah, by contrast, often feels like a chaotic storm tearing through scenes. Readers get the sense she's more of a wild card than a character meant to anchor the story. But the personality changes don't stop there. Let's talk about her career path. In the TV show, Deborah's arc is one of ambition and progression. She starts as a vice cop working the streets and slowly climbs her way up, eventually earning a spot as detective and even reaching the rank of lieutenant. Her rise through the ranks gives her story a sense of growth, of fighting against the odds and winning. It also allowed the show to use her career as a source of tension. Each promotion brought her closer to Dexter's secret, raising the stakes every season. But in the books, Deborah never gets that clean upward trajectory. Her career is messy, filled with setbacks, clashes with authority, and missed opportunities. She doesn't get the spotlight the way TV Deb does. In fact, her struggles highlight just how much the novels keep her in the background compared to Dexter. She's not the professional climbing the ladder. She's constantly overlooked, constantly fighting, and never truly in control. That choice by Jeff Lindsay gave Book Deborah a raw authenticity, but it also meant she wasn't as central to Dexter's journey. She was there, yes, but she wasn't the heart of the story. Showtime flipped that completely. They took Deborah from the sidelines and turned her into Dexter's emotional anchor, the one person whose opinion truly mattered. And this brings us to the biggest difference of all, her relationship with Dexter. In the books, Deborah respects her brother, but their bond doesn't carry the same intensity as in the show. She never suspects his darkness in the same layered way. Dexter, for her, is a useful ally, a trusted forensic expert, but she's not constantly orbiting around him, not wrestling with suspicion and loyalty in the way TV Deb does. In the show, that relationship becomes the beating heart of the story. Deborah's love, her suspicion, her horror, and her ultimate discovery of Dexter's true nature drive the later seasons. In fact, some would argue that Deborah's arc is the real tragedy of the series. Even more than Dexter's, she goes from loyal sister to conflicted cop to a woman broken by the weight of her brother's secret. That emotional journey simply doesn't exist in the novels, and this is where the tension really spikes. Because when you compare the two versions of Deborah, it feels like you're looking at two completely different characters. One is a raw, foul-mouthed storm who stumbles through her career and never becomes central to Dexter's downfall. The other is a layered, vulnerable, emotionally complex sister who becomes the most important relationship in Dexter's life. So which version is the real Deborah Morgan, and why did the show rewrite her so drastically? The truth is, the showrunners needed her. The novels focus almost exclusively on Dexter himself. His voice, his perspective, his darkly comic narration carry the story. But television is different. To sustain 8 seasons of drama, Dexter couldn't exist in a vacuum. He needed a counterpart, someone to humanize him, someone to force him into choices that weren't just about killing. And that's what the show made Deborah into. They transformed her from a side character into the emotional core of the series. But here's the thing, that change didn't just make her more important, it made her more beloved. Fans connected with TV Deborah because she felt real. She was strong but insecure, tough but wounded, a cop who could go toe-to-toe with killers but break down in tears behind closed doors. She represented the cost of living in Dexter's orbit, the human price of being tied to someone with such a dark secret. Book Deborah, by comparison, is almost too chaotic to serve that role. She's entertaining, yes, but she doesn't carry the same weight. She doesn't break your heart the way Jennifer Carpenter's Deborah did. She doesn't feel like the emotional glue holding Dexter's world together, and that's why fans who only watched the show missed something crucial. They never saw the version of Deborah who was rougher, meaner, and more self-destructive. A Deborah who wasn't rewritten to make audiences care, but instead left raw and jagged on the page. So what does that mean for Dexter fans? It means that Deborah Morgan exists in 2 forms, and depending on which version you know, your entire view of the series changes. In the books, she's the reckless sister, always one step behind. In the show, she's the tragic heroine who defines Dexter's humanity. To Deborah, 2 completely different legacies. And maybe that's the shocking truth here, that Showtime didn't just adapt Jeff Lindsay's novels. They rewrote Deborah Morgan into something the author never intended. They turned her into Dexter's anchor, his conscience, his undoing. And for better or worse, that change may be the reason the show lasted as long as it did. So when you think about Deborah in the books versus Deb in the show, remember this. Fans who only watched Dexter never saw the Deborah who was hiding in Jeff Lindsay's pages. And fans who only read the books never experienced the Deborah who broke millions of hearts on TV. 2 Deborahs, 2 worlds, and one big question for you. Which version do you think was better? If you learned something new about Dexter today, hit that like button, and don't forget to subscribe for more hidden truths from the world of Dexter. And while you're here, drop a comment and let me know which Deborah Morgan you prefer, the unfiltered chaos of the novels or the tragic heart of the TV series.